Let's go ahead and check in on today's magic moments covered by State Farm. I don't know if anything can be more magical than seeing my beloved UConn Huskies back in the rightful top spot at number one for the first time since 2009, Harry. Before we get into UConn, though, they've been a story this season already, but do you think they're deserving of that number one spot? Because we had that conversation on last week's show.
Yes, I do. And look, with the ranking, it's sort of a roulette, right? You sort of win your way to deserve that spot. They've won 6 in a row. And when you're taking care of business that way and are able to string together those wins, yes, you are worthy of the number one spot. And we know how great they can be. We still think they can be better. But yes, I definitely think that they are worthy of it. Now, from your perspective, because you are the UConn expert here.
I don't know about expert. We're certainly a fan.
I will give you that crown.
Yes.
Do you think that what we've seen out of this team so far, that they have what it takes to go back-to-back?
So let's start here. Let's start with expectations, because UConn fans, admittedly, we don't always have our expectations in check, and it is really hard to win another national championship. But I do think that this UConn team has what it takes to do that, Harry. They lost so much from last year's team. And let's not forget that this team won 6 straight games in the NCAA tournament by an average of 20 points. 20 points! Andrew Hurley, Danny Hurley's son, was getting in the Final Four game. I mean, it was just crazy to see what they were able to do and how they were able to do it. Now, they lost a couple of players from last year. There's no question about it. Lost a lot of talent from last year's team. But Danny Hurley did a great job of going out into the portal and getting a guy like Cam Spencer, who I don't think a lot of people knew necessarily before he got to UConn. But he started his career at Loyola, Maryland, then he went to Rutgers, and now he's at UConn, and he's shooting 43% from beyond the arc. This team wins when they can make threes, when they can stay healthy.
And something I was surprised by, this is their first number one ranking since 2009.
Wild, isn't it?
I was a junior in high school. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Do you think that they can stay there? And if they do, how do they do that? Because, again, we've seen the roulette that is the number one spot, right? How do they stay there?
I think, and you and I, have covered the sport of college football as well this past season. The hardest part about being number one sometimes is just staying there, right? I mean, it's just being able to maintain that ranking. And at the end of the day, I do think that in college basketball, maybe more so than college football, the number next to the name doesn't necessarily mean as much towards the end of the season, because obviously so many more teams have opportunities to get into the NCAA tournament. But I think if this was like 5 years ago when UConn was in the American Athletic Conference, I would have said there's no question they should be able to stay at number one because of where they are and because of what conference they play in. That's just not the case anymore. The Big East is the old Big East. I mean, I think this is a legitimate case can be made for the Big East to be the second or third most difficult conference in the entire country this year, behind the Big 12. And I'm not sure there's really any disputing that. You have Seton Hall up at the top of the conference. They already beat UConn this year. I mean, there are teams right now. I believe Lunardi has 5 or 6 Big East teams making the NCAA tournament. So I think it's going to be tough for them to stay number one. We've already seen them lose a Big East game. It was a good win against Creighton earlier this week, but we'll see what they do later today, later tonight.
Without a doubt. And, to me, one of the interesting things about UConn over the last however many years since Jim Calhoun called it quits has been sort of making sure you get that right head coach in position.
Right.
He is such a character. He's fun. He's energetic. He does not hide his emotions.
No.
As a fan, what do you like about him, and why is he such a good fit for this program?
He's a nut. I love him. He is crazy. And I think, but it's a controlled craziness.
Yeah.
I think he knows, he has gotten a lot better. And self-admittedly, he has said that he has gotten a lot better at controlling his emotions on the court. But I mean, look at him.
Look at him stewing.
This is an everyday occurrence. He'll give it to the referees. But he plays with a chip on his shoulder. His entire team kind of embodies his mentality. And for me, for any team that I'm a fan of, it's not a requirement that I like the coach. If he or she is able to create a culture and win games and do it the right way, I think that's that's all you need. I don't have to love you. I don't have to be your best friend. But if you're able to do some of those things and do it in the right way, obviously, I think that's what makes this UConn fan base love him so much. And it is a blue collar kind of mentality too.
Yeah, and you bring up culture. A lot of coaches everywhere talk about it. Like, I hear about it every Thursday when we go do these Thursday night games. But the great ones, you can just see it And you could see it with this UConn team.
No question about it. Those were today's Magic Moments covered by State Farm.